So it's funny, things that may be rudimentary to you and me, Charlie, because we talk about it a lot, but are you a business owner or are you a business operator? And that was really the theme of the conference. And even though I've heard it before, you and I've discussed it before, there was a much better distillation of what that means.
Okay.
And he said, if you are doing all the work of your business, if you are just running it yourself all the time and you don't have an exit strategy, then you basically have a good paying job.
Always good to see you, Amy. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Good morning.
So I sprung it on you this morning knowing that you were just back from the virtual Tony Robbins, which was over 4 days and was probably knowing Tony Robbins about 100 hours of content. 5 days.
5 days.
So I'm glad you got a little bit of sleep overnight. But then I said, hey, can you do a few takeaways this morning? So surprise, you agreed to do that. And I do appreciate the flexibility. So where do you want to start? I've not been to a Tony Robbins event. I've heard great things. I think this may have been his first virtual event. You always think of Tony Robbins as rah in a room with 1,000 other people. He's known for going like till midnight, 1 a.m. So just kind of, what was maybe your overall thought with the first big Tony Robbins event since the pandemic started? I don't know. Or the one that you've, or the
first time he's done Business Mastery live, but he did his other event live and it went really well. I heard them say they had more technical difficulties in this than they expected because the last one went so well. I have a sense of humor. I'm patient. So when things would just stop, it was fine. And I think they did remarkably well. So I think if you've never been to a Tony Robbins event before, you would need to probably be prepared to be engaged and to be present and to not wander off and make a sandwich, which would be impossible to do in a big room. Although you could wander away in a big room and go get a cup of coffee and they don't know where you are. They can't come find you. The funny thing was when you walked away from your Zoom screen, if you left your chair empty, they'd pretty much yell, like, hey, because they can see your name on the screen.
So that's okay. So I was at, Eyerusalem was talking about the RE/MAX Broker Owner Conference, right? Last week. We were supposed to be in sunny San Diego. Instead, I was in my windowless den watching it, live, but it was a webinar, right? So nobody could see when I wandered away to make my sandwich, right? Nobody could see when I went down the street to get lunch. So this was an interesting piece of accountability, the Zoom meeting, where it was in an actual meeting where you were on camera for a substantial number of hours every day. Oh,
significant. Yeah. And good thing I'm used to this. I do Zoom all long, but so they did it. The technology was remarkable. Absolutely worth doing. I think the content was not so dissimilar from what you would get in person. They even did the turn to your neighbor and discuss. They would dump you in Zoom rooms with 2 other people.
Wow.
6 minutes, the clock would be ticking. You need to take your turn. You'd talk about the exercise. Technology wise, it was over the top. I was sharing with you before we went live. Some of it was less cutting edge than I expected, but a lot of it really was. And the truth is, it was such a 5-day fire hose on how to be a business owner. If they'd made the content any more dense, my brain probably just would have hemorrhaged. So overall, thumbs up.
That's really awesome. Good.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, does he have any more events the rest of the year for those that may want to go to a Tony Robbins event but don't want to travel? I mean, now is kind of the time to take advantage of a virtual event and save the time traveling and the money and the cost of all of that, I suppose.
Well, I noticed, I don't know everything. What I was aware of is they do have, it's called UPW, Unleash the Power Within. That's a 3.5-day event. They have one in September, one in October, and one in November. The thing of it is the ones in September and October are in other countries. So if you want to wake up at 2 in the morning and get started, the one in November is somewhere in this country. Yeah.
All right, cool. Good.
It hadn't occurred to me, it's virtual, but if it's virtual in Australia, Yeah.
You're flip-flopping your day.
and we had an Australian in our group. I was in a team of 6 people. And after one day, the Australian dropped off, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe she wasn't ready to be, awake at the wrong time of day.
Right.
But, yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So give me a few takeaways. And I know that you have tons of, notes. So, and this isn't quite distilled, but just kind of, where do you want to start?
So it's funny, things that may be rudimentary to you and me, Charlie, because we talk about it a lot, but are you a business owner or are you a business operator? And that was really the theme of the conference. And even though I've heard it before, you and I've discussed it before, there was a much better distillation of what that means.
Okay.
And he said, if you are doing all the work of your business, if you are just running it yourself all the time and you don't have an exit strategy, then you basically have a good paying job. And I thought, most agents are happy with that. You and I need to be careful when we give advice to real estate agents that it's advice they want, right? And this is the way a good coach does. I don't tell you what to do. I ask you what you want to accomplish, and then I figure out how. Sometimes I may question your perspective or question your limiting beliefs and say, well, have you thought about it this way? But at the end of the day, it's your choice. And if you want a good paying job and then you stop when you're done, my broker says they're going to find him dead at an open house. He's, 78 years old and he's never played.
Well, and I can see that with Joe.
Yeah.
He just celebrated his 40th year in the network, I believe, like 2 weeks ago. There was a big deal made of that last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's been a heck of a Remax warrior.
He sure has.
And it's a joke, but it's funny or it's not, depending on who you are. Like some people love showing houses and they just plan to do it the rest of their lives and just fall down dead of old age. Other people say, no, I'm doing this because I need the money and I really don't want to just have to be dependent on, if I ever don't show a house, I don't get paid that day, right? So being a business owner means that you create systems, you create a vision, you create a culture, and then you employ people, you inspire people, and you create a product. And so in real estate, that can be done too. And I think a lot of us in real estate, we have a limiting belief that that's possible. Like, how could I possibly just run the business? Who would do the work?
Right.
Well, let's think about it. Like, there's a way to problem solve, right? So 2 things there. One is they said it's important that you fall in love with your customer, not your product. And so we can talk about that in a minute. The other thing that they said is when it comes to figuring out how to do these things, and you and I have talked about this also, don't say, I don't have X. I'm lacking a thing. I couldn't find the right assistant, or I don't have a good process, or I'm missing a thing. You're complaining about your lack of resources, right? Don't do that, right? Get resourceful. Right? If time were of the essence, or if a family member's life were on the line, or a big prize was at the end, would you get creative? Would you get resourceful? Would you figure it out? Suddenly we all get kind of magical thinking and we're like, ooh, how about this? How about that? But in the moment, we tend to be a little bit limited in our thinking, right? How could you run a business that doesn't have you hands-on every single thing, opening the door, making the donuts, greeting the customers, taking the cash, turning the lights on and off, cleaning the bathroom yourself? That's the way most of us run a real estate business. So be resourceful, right? Absolutely be resourceful and figure that out. And in future shows, we can talk about what that looks like. This is a ridiculous distillation of 5 days. But the fall in love with your customer, not your product, was really satisfying to me. I think because I am in love with my product. My product really is other real estate agents and real estate brokers, broker owners. And I've said it so many times. I mean, I've heard myself say it. I say I have a heart for brokerage. I say it all the time. And it was spontaneous. I'm like, yay, I'm in the right place. Because if you fall in love with your product, then you're not adaptable. And maybe I should not be. Here's another thing. When you take Tony Robbins' Business Mastery, he's not going to speak to real estate agents. He's going to speak to all businesses. Right. So maybe I should quickly on my feet here think of a way to interpret this for all of us. Like, what is our product and what is our service and what is our customer? The thing of it is, when you fall in love with your customer, you'll deliver any product that serves them. And you'll do it with passion, and you'll do it with growing skill, right? So our customer, for most of us real estate agents, our customer is the consumer who needs to buy or sell or wants to invest, right? And if you see things from their perspective, if you really have a heart for their process and what they're going through, you're going to deliver a product that serves that person, right? Whereas most of us are maybe in love with closings, or maybe, we like houses, maybe we actually like real estate. Most of us don't have real estate as a product. None of us are builders for the most part. So keep in mind that your product is your listing process, your buyer process, your consultation, your strategy. But if you're so in love with your own strategy, like, ooh, I always do it this way, and I'm so good at this, and then you get stuck in being committed to what you have and justifying it to yourself and to the public. When the market shifts, when things adapt, like we all get defensive about iBuyers, and I'm super defensive that real estate agents aren't necessary, and the whole industry is going away, and everybody's going to buy a house online. I am super defensive about that.
Sure.
So the question is, am I being too attached to my product? Actually, yes, I am. But I still think, because I'm still attached to my product, which is real estate agents have a lot to offer. That's my product, right? But when I think about my customer, when I'm in love with my customer, I also take that same road. No. My customer, the average American, doesn't know this stuff. The average American isn't super financially savvy or real estate savvy or super informed about market trends or environmental hazards or any of those things. So I am in love with my customer. And to that end, I feel very, very strongly about providing extraordinary pricing strategies, buying strategies, insights, and staying ahead of whatever's coming. So anyway, that may or may not help everyone to understand.
So I think that's a super interesting point, right? So you're like almost in a way obsessed with the service that you're providing to your clients, and therefore you have bought into the need to have systems to serve them at the highest level.
Yeah.
And there's so many agents that run their business by memory, right? And not by using a system. I wonder if another way of approaching this struggle with them is to say, if you're truly committed to your client, you are, right? Well, I mean, of course I am. My clients are my everything. Are you kidding me? I bake them bread. I send them cookies. I invite them to wineries. They're my everything.
Right.
Well, then why don't you have the systems in place to serve them at the highest level? I've never put it that way, right? And I think with some agents, maybe a light bulb would go off.
It might, except then that gets us to artist, operator, entrepreneur, which we can talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
The reason most of us don't create systems is because most of us don't have the natural ability. Now, that's not a legitimate excuse. That's the current excuse.
Right.
So that brings me to my biggest takeaway. And there's so many, it's crazy. And we could do this show for a very long time on just what I got out of the last 5 days. But my biggest takeaway is you can learn anything that you need to know to do the thing that you want to do. And maybe that sounds super simple and I need to reword it so that it hits you in the chest.
Yep.
Like, seriously, Google that stuff. Like, get a coach, hire a trainer, like, just take a class, read a book, learn a book. I can't remember what that's from. But the skills that you need, and let's pick something. Let's say video editing, which I personally don't need to do, and I'm tempted and I need not to. Somebody else needs to do my video editing. But whatever it is you need to do, you can learn it actually. And I think a lot of us are guilty of believing that if I were meant to play the cello, I would have been born good at it. And that's not a thing. No one is born good at playing the cello, right? Mozart's father, that was violin, played to him, with him, for him, and had him, so yes, in his own way, he had extraordinary talent and he was a genius and all those things. But they didn't just hand him a violin at 20 and it all just fell out.
Right.
So I think we all really, really have limiting beliefs around what our career deserves, how much work it is. And the other thing is, they joke about motivation and getting in shape and things like that. Like, how often do you brush your teeth? You don't just brush your teeth once and say, I'm set for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Same is true for your business. You can't just lift weights once and say, wow, so glad I'm in shape. I get to be in shape the rest of my life.
Right.
Your business requires constant and never-ending improvement, or it will die on the vine, right? It will become stale. You will struggle for lack of innovation. You will struggle for lack of improvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
You will be behind the times with the current trends or the newest things. You'll be saying, wait, what? When did you guys get that? Where was I? What happened to the MLS book? And I'm only sort of kidding. The MLS book is an extreme example, but we all know things around us that are changing and we're not keeping up.
Yep.
Now, in all fairness, living in this technological age is pretty overwhelming, right? There is more crap coming down the pike than any of us could keep up with. So I'm not encouraging you to keep up with absolutely everything and change your phone every time they have a new iteration and spend countless hours learning that.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets me to focus, which is also something we talk about, but it was very satisfying to hear it emphasized. He said, if you focus on something, you can make it great. If you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and you dabble in all things, you'll never deliver a terrific product. And that's another reason it's important that we all get better at systematizing our business and hiring help. Most of us just aren't good at all the things, right? So when I was saying the reason we don't have systems is not that we didn't know they exist, but we see ourselves as lacking that natural talent. I'm not naturally organized. I don't know what Trello is. I looked at it for 3.5 minutes and it confused me. Bounce, right?
Right.
And we're all guilty of that. We all have ADD, and I will tell you, I have adult onset ADD. This is not a problem I ever had in my young life. And I think we all do. I think we've been trained by our devices to go pudding, 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 pudding.
Yep. Yeah,
so you're
I agree.
not alone. If you think your brain isn't functioning maximally, you're right. Your brain is not focusing. You are bouncing all over the place and it isn't serving you. So that gets me to state, which is the Tony Robbins ism. You've got to be in state. And it's just have a positive frame of mind, have a positive connection to your own body. And the number of times they make you get up out of your chair and jump up and down and scream is ridiculous. And last night, I'm at 5 days on very little sleep. We're just doing the wrap up. It's like, I actually want to take my notes. Let me sit down. No, get up, jump, jump. Dun, 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 and you're jumping and jumping and jumping, but they will not let you curl your spine. No, up here, baby, up here. And I just thought about the times in my life when I really have been physically alert, more physically fit, eat better, right? More water, I drank more water in the last 5 days and somehow was still dehydrated. Like, they're just, go get some water, everybody drink water. And this is what they do in person too. Yeah. And they claim in person it's because you're in a really air-conditioned environment, which I wasn't in my own house, and it was still the same. So the concept of having a good frame of mind and being in a healthy state is when your blood is flowing through your body, you have more alertness, you have more optimism, you have better ability to make decisions and to commit, right? And it helps with the squirreliness. It helps with the wandering mind. So I would say I'm a believer, and I need to remember, I probably need to, put a sticky note on my monitor that says, get up. If we sit too long, I guess those of us who do video for a living, if you're out there showing houses, you're moving around more than me, that's great. But take that opportunity to do some stretching exercises. There was an incredible guy. The speakers were amazing, by the way. Okay. So many amazing speakers. The guy who explained accounting just absolutely blew my mind. I could not take notes fast enough. It was just so fantastic. But there was a guy every single morning who would talk about body mechanics, and he would help you get warmed up for the day, but it was brilliant stuff. This is a perfect example of how focus and brilliance bring so much more value than just lots. Because they gave him very few minutes. Like, I don't even know if he had 5 or 10 minutes in the morning. And it was just like, oh, I want to do this every day. I want to be with this. And of course, he sells that. You can do that. You can be with him every day. I'm totally going to do it. I'm going to check it out. I almost don't care what it costs. I'd rather do that than a gym, because it was accurate. It wasn't just enough energy to keep moving and get my blood pumping. It was, rotating your shoulders in the right ways. And he just believes that everything comes from your hips. And he had all this stuff that was just so great. He was the perfect example of the quality of his delivery was extraordinary. The content of his help was exactly what we all needed. It was quick. It was really excellent. So I want to encourage everyone, I realize we're running short on time, to believe me. What is it? Believe me now and do it later. I don't remember what that expression is. That we could all do better. And I don't mean more. I think we all get exhausted. It's like, oh, God, don't tell me I can do better. I'm already tired, right? Mm-hmm. We could all do better, and better is better, right? It's like the book Essentialism that I love to quote, less but better, right? Provide a more extraordinary service, be lean, be succinct, and quit believing that you're already as good as you'll ever become, or you already know everything you need to know. You have the ability to grow. And I will tell you, the confidence that comes from knowing your stuff. I am a full-time trainer and coach, and I don't sell a ton of houses. And I had somebody call me from Florida, and he's like, what do you think about these houses? And we happened to be on a break from Tony Robbins. I ran in here, pull up the MLS, and I just know everything. Well, let me explain. And it felt incredible to deliver so much value in such a short amount of time. This is a very wealthy man, owns his own plane. I was able to just tell him the ding dang truth. And I was not attached to, oh, can I get a commission? Mm-hmm. You know, I'm in love with helping my clients move to this place in the most informed way and have them, you know, enjoy it. He wanted me to write on a house sight unseen. And he's been here before. Okay. And he asked me, what do I think of the neighborhood? Which, of course, we're not allowed to say it's a good neighborhood, it's a bad neighborhood. Yep. And I said, well, it's a suburban neighborhood. You know, like I said, you can afford a $500,000 house. Why are you looking at a $300,000 house? Well, it looks cute. I'm like, okay, but I'm just telling you, if you can afford 5, you're going to want 5. And I said, so what you're paying for is the location and the lifestyle. And so we just talked about it. I said, do you want to live in your yard? Do you want to live on your patio? Do you want to live in your neighborhood and on the trails? Or do you want to live in your living room? I said, I want to live. I want a view, man. Mm-hmm. It's a gorgeous place. I want it all.
It's Colorado. You want a view.
I want to live in a cute living room for $300,000. Right. I said, $300,000 is a crazy smoking deal. And if you're looking for a deal, swing for the fence, baby, and don't overthink it. So he just kept insisting, because he's one of those people who has to be right. And he talked it over his wife, and he came back and he said, yeah, you made a really good point about where do you want to be, right? So that brings me to one of the other questions of the week. What business are you in? Everybody has to answer the question, what business are you in? And then he says, what business are you really in? And now we've all got to slow down and try harder. Like, wait, what business am I really in, right? And then what business should you be in? And so this is part of falling in love with your customer. Like if you say, what business are you in? I'm in the real estate business. Well, what business are you really in? I think I personally am in the, well, and I haven't quantified, I haven't solidified my elevator speech well enough, because I want it to incorporate my coaching, my training, and my real estate all into one thing, which is kind of goofy. But like I interpret real estate information for everybody else. It's what I do. It's what I do for you, Charlie, right? You know, I'm an interpreter of real estate information, but I don't even think that's sexy enough. It makes me happy because I know that's who I am. But what I do is I help people create very custom strategies for maximizing their investments in real estate. And that's exactly what I do. I help people create very custom strategies for maximizing their purchases, their sales, whatever it is. So what business should you be in? Now I got to really think about that one, right? So maybe all this is a little too challenging for a Monday morning, maybe a little too heady. And there's a lot of that too. Boy, you're just like drinking from a fire hose. And there were a lot of people there who were there for the umpteenth time. They've come to business many times. But there was a speaker there who talked about growing her cosmetics company and selling it for billions of dollars, becoming the first billionaire CEO to ever be absorbed by L'Oreal, and to hear her journey. And she had started out as a waitress working at Denny's, listening to Tony Robbins tapes. So there is a lot to learn. And so I think, Charlie, what we should offer everyone is that we're going to bring you little nuggets. But this leaves you, I want to leave you with actions. And this is the CEO time. This is something that I coach. Like, when is your CEO time? And maybe I need to find a different way to talk about it, because anything that you just sort of ask all the time, did you brush your teeth? Did you brush your teeth? Stand up straight. You know, like the things we know we're supposed to do. And we just start tuning it out, right? Stand up straight, and you just don't. So the CEO time, for him, he says there are 7 forces in business mastery. In order to master your own business, you have to master these 7 components. It's marketing, it's innovation, it's all these different things. And he says you need to create a schedule for yourself, and every single week for 60 or 90 minutes, somewhere in there, 60 to 90 minutes, you need to take that one force for the week, and you need to put your CEO time on that. And then do your 7 weeks, and then start over, right? That you're constantly innovating, you're constantly overlooking your systems and processes and looking at how you can serve your customer better and make it a routine part of what you do. So can I keep going even though we have one more? I mean, we're one more minute. All right. Yeah. So I was saying that we think we should be naturally good at these things. And I said, so now we need to talk about artist, operator, and entrepreneur. And you and I have heard this concept before, but it was explained differently. So most people are artists, and here's the definition of an artist. An artist is someone who creates a product, like it could be art. I am definitely an artist, but artists can be really good negotiators. All sorts of trades. There's all sorts of people that they do a thing that makes you an artist, that you're good at doing a thing or creating a thing or sharing a thing, right? Operators are those managerial minds who are good at sort of keeping their eye on things and making sure that everything goes where it's supposed to. They don't necessarily dream up cool things to create or share, and they're not necessarily negotiators or things like that. Those would be the types of people that you need. Like if you have a team, you need that team manager or, a really, really good assistant. That's that operator. An entrepreneur is someone who is so hungry for the money that that's their focus. And I didn't understand this, right? So the entrepreneur is not really about the art. They'll sell pudding pops or they'll sell, radio commercials. They don't care. They just want to earn money. So the artist can tend to get attached to their product. Right? The artist feels like, no, this is what I do. This is my baby. This is the thing that I have. This is the thing that I am. And the entrepreneur would sort of slap them into, really being focused on productivity and profitability. And an operator would make sure the whole dang thing actually happened. Right. So most of us are in that artist space. Like, no, I'm just good with people. I don't need a listing presentation. They always hire me. I'm good at the kitchen table, right? I've got my skill. I've got my charm. The problem is that's lacking that systematization. And then sometimes the delivery of your service is dependent on your charm, your mood, your energy, right? And that's all it is. You are the art, right? Yep. So those were really interesting. It was an interesting distinction for me to understand. And then when you look at your own self, and it doesn't matter, there's nothing wrong with it. But when you look at your own self and look at what you may be missing, if you want to grow a scalable business, if you want to have something that you can sell to someone else, and of course they emphasize that. They say if you don't have an exit strategy, you definitely don't own a business. Right. If you can't sell it, then it's not a business. It's just a job, right? It's a high-paying job. Hopefully it's high-paying. So when you look at I am this type of person, then you look at how do you scale your business, then you need those other components. So that's the answer to no shame, no blame. If you're not good at systems, I get it, but you can also learn. You can grow. So get your energy right, drink water, get up half an hour earlier every day. My goodness, I'm going on so little sleep. It is ridiculous. And when we got done last night, I actually cleaned my kitchen. Of course, maybe there was a little bit of adrenaline that I had to burn through. But we are all capable of way more than we know. Surround yourself with extraordinary people. Feed your mind, feed your heart, get your energy up, drink some water, and focus on the things that are going to make you grow. Start small. Be focused. Don't ping-pong all over the place. Grow one thing until you're happy with it and pick another.